In the quiet town of Creeks, Penny and her husband James had just moved into an old house. The move was a hard one because they had left behind their old life, friends and loved ones in their former town. While exploring the attic, they stumbled upon a dusty, old photograph of a young child with piercing eyes and a haunting smile. The back of the photo read, "Sarah, 1923. That night, as they settled into their new home, Penny heard faint laughter echoing through the halls. She brushed it off as her imagination, but the next night, the laughter grew louder. James heard it too. They had no children, so who could it be? Determined to uncover the mystery, they searched the attic again. This time, they found an old wooden chest hidden beneath the floorboards. It was so heavy as if a body lay inside waiting to be uncovered. To their surprise, it was a diary which belonged to Sarah, the child in the photograph. Her entries spoke of loneliness and pain she endured prior to her disappearance. The last entry was dated the day she went missing. As they read, the laughter grew closer, more distinct. Penny felt a cold breath on her neck and turned to see a shadow darting across the room. The couple realized they were not alone. Emily's spirit was still in the house, and she wanted to play. As Penny continued to flip through the diary's brittle pages, she noticed something odd. Here and there, amidst Sarah's neat handwriting, another hand had scribbled a name over and over, Emily. The name was carved into the margins, pressed so deeply into the paper it had torn in places. If the diary belonged to Sarah, then why was Emily's name inscribed all over it? It became evident that Sarah had been trying to document a truth about Emily, to leave a warning for whoever came next. Sarah had tried to tell her parents about the unending torments, but they were too busy to listen to her. When they finally did, they concluded that she was mentally ill. And because they did not want their daughter's situation to affect their status in the community, they confined her to the house. While researching the house's history, James uncovered a pattern. Over the past century, several children had gone missing after living in the house. Their disappearances were mysterious, with each case fading as quickly as it began. Tucked between the pages of Sarah's diary was another photograph, much older and yellowing with age. It showed a different girl, from perhaps the late 1800s, with a somber expression. The name, Evelyn, 1879, was scrawled on the back, following the same pattern as Sarah's. Digging further, they pieced together Emily's tragic history. She had lived in the house long before any of the other children, back in the early 1800s. Emily's parents were distant and neglectful, often leaving her alone. One stormy night, Emily had a terrible accident, falling from the attic and breaking her leg. She lay there for days, suffering from her injuries, calling for help that never came. When her body was finally found, her face was twisted in a final cry of despair. Emily's anger grew over time, manifesting as a desire to punish other children who came to live in the house, feeling that they might share in the happiness or parental love she never received. Her bitterness grew into a malevolent force, one that sought to inflict the same loneliness and pain on others. For over a century, Emily had been claiming new friends, children who arrived at the house full of hope, only to vanish like Sarah and Evelyn. With the knowledge that Emily had been behind the disappearances of multiple children, Penny and James knew they had to act before the spirit claimed another life. Though they had no children of their own, they feared that the cycle would start again if the house was ever occupied by another family. Penny delved deeper into the history of Emily's death, eventually finding an old map of the house's grounds. A spot in the garden was marked with a cross. They dug beneath an old tree and unearthed a small, unmarked grave. Inside, they found the remains of a child wrapped in a faded blanket. That night, they performed a ceremony, hoping to set Emily's spirit free. Penny placed Sarah's diary beside Emily's bones and lit a candle, speaking softly to the darkness. "Emily," she whispered, "it's time to rest. You don't have to be lonely anymore. We're giving you the recognition and care you never received." For a moment, there was only silence, then the faint sound of laughter drifted away into the night. The oppressive feeling that was hanging over the house seemed to lift, and the air grew lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. Penny and James left the house soon after, leaving behind a detailed account of what they had uncovered. They hoped it would serve as a warning for anyone who might consider moving in. Though the house now stood vacant, local children still whispered stories of ghosts and strange laughter. Years later, the house remained vacant, its windows dark and its halls silent. Perhaps Emily's spirit had finally been laid to rest, or perhaps she was simply waiting for a new playmate to arrive.